At the end of our process, we have a product that is effectively commodity grade precious metal. We're not recycling it. We're regenerating. We're turning it right back into the raw material that it was before it was ever used.
Your positive imprint. Stories are everywhere.
People and their positive action inspire positive achievements.
Your PI could mean the world to you. Get ready for your positive imprint.
Hello, I'm Catherine, your host of this variety show podcast. Your positive imprint is transforming how we live today for a more sustainable tomorrow through education and information. Your own positive actions inspire change. Follow me on Instagram, and brilliant, I'm updating my YouTube channel, Your Positive Imprint. You can also follow me on Meta, formerly Facebook, and connect with me on LinkedIn. Check out my website, yourpositiveimprint.com, where you can learn more about the podcast and sign up for email updates. And thank you for listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, Pandora, Amazon Music, well, your favorite podcast platform, including YouTube, which I am updating. Music by the talented and legendary Chris Knoll. ChrisKnoll.com, ChrisNole. And thank you again so much for listening and for your support of this podcast. Your Positive Imprint. What's your PI? What happens to platinum group metals from end-of-life catalytic converters? Do we keep mining and mining and mining until these precious minerals are depleted? Well, there's an impact on our planet, as we know, with mining, as well as losing natural resources. Well, precious metals aren't something that I ever previously considered, but through this podcast, I've gained insights into how precious metals, yes, indeed, precious metals, and how these metals can be recycled. I guess repurposed, I suppose. But what are the implications, and can certain metals actually be extracted from, in this case, diesel catalytic converters, and then recycled and reused? Well, today's awesome guest is dedicated to advancing environmentally responsible recovery and recycling of platinum group metals, commonly referred to as PGMs, from end-of-life catalytic converters. His company, RegenX Tech, is well regarded for its clean technology. All of this will be elaborated upon as my guest shares his remarkable positive imprints and loads of information for you. And I'm thrilled to welcome the CEO. And congratulations, this is a new task, new assignment, new beginning for him at RegenX Tech. Don Weatherbee, welcome to the show. Welcome, Don.
Well, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, awesome. I have never, oh my gosh, I never even thought about these metals and what happens to them. I would love to hear first about you. And you are from Canada, in one of my favorite places in the world.
Oh, thanks. So a little bit of a long, winding history. I graduated high school in Alberta and started university and went into an accounting degree and started in the world of accounting and started with a coal mining company. Spent 7 years at a coal mining company and various things, even including 2 years out on site in one of the mines. And then moved to an oil sands contract miner for about 15 years. So a broad history of mining experience. And started with the RegenX forebearer company, which we were just naturally going to go into being, we were a junior exploration company. So one of these mining companies that goes and finds new deposits that can be developed into mines and that. So started there thinking that, well, that would be continuation of mining. But we had funds from the sale of an asset and started looking around saying, well, can we find another property or is there something else we should be doing? And we came across a processing technology. And that process technology was intended to recover gold from old tailings piles. So gold that wasn't economic back 50, 100 years ago, sitting around in these waste piles. And we started working down that path. And when you start working in a path, different opportunities jump up. And because people start to hearing that you're doing processing of a certain type, we were asked if we could process e-waste. And we started in that. But e-waste is quite challenging because every different load is a different type, meaning you have different materials in it made up of different things. So it's a complicated piece to recycle. While we were doing the e-waste, a group out of the US, a scrap dealer, asked us about the ability we could have to extract the PGMs from catalytic converters, because he was finding he had access to a bunch of catalytic converters, especially in the diesel side, that weren't being able to be recycled. And he was looking to see, was there a different process that could be? So we started that in 2000 and moved ourselves down until we are where we are now, that we have a commercial operation to extract that.
That's so interesting, because that's something that I think in most people, we don't think about it because it's not in our home where we're expected to recycle this. I never, ever thought that anything like that could be recycled. I guess repurposing.
Well, so we're a small portion of the pie. There are quite a bit of recycling done in especially in the gasoline sector, and that is done through smelters. So the most common practice is to extract, and maybe it might be a little bit informative, just to step back and say, okay, a catalytic converter. What you see on a catalytic converter, if you look under your car, is effectively like a second muffler. It's a metal sheathed piece along your exhaust system. So inside that metal compartment is a honeycomb. That honeycomb is coated with platinum and palladium. And the honeycomb is built as a structure. The concept is that you need the air to flow over the most surfaces you can to create the chemical reactions to convert the harmful gases to the less harmful. It came out and mainly started in the 70s because people who were around from that time frame, the cities were just clogged in smog. And smog was the cause mainly from the automobiles, and the catalytic converters were brought in to eliminate smog. And they did so. They did the smog gases and changed it to mainly carbon dioxide. And that's why I say it's a less harmful gas. It's still not perfect, but it is better than it was with the smog. So that honeycomb with the plating on it, for gasoline engines, it's made of particularly ceramic. And the diesel engines, it's a silicon carbide. And so the smelters can melt the ceramic easily. They have issues with the silicon carbide. So that's why they don't want that stream. So the vast majority of current recycling is done by just melting it in high temperature furnaces. And our process is a chemical process, hydrometallurgical. And so it avoids the need for the burning of the material.
Hence the clean technology. Can you kind of go through a little bit of the dynamics of the melting?
So
they become a powder?
With smelting, it's all about at different temperatures, different materials melt. So as the temperatures go up, you can separate out different metals because you can set it up to, and some parts will just burn up, turning into ash and that sort of baseline. But the metals will turn into a liquid, and which then can be separated from the material because they've now turned themselves into a liquid.
Okay, this is fun because I'm going back to my science classes as we're doing these experiments. So the metals, we're talking about PGMs. I would love for you to walk through the to give listeners a visual of what these metals look like when they're in this hot temperature. I've had people on here who melt glass and what that looks like. So now this is very different. And what about the people who were there on site? Are there any health hazards with the high temperatures and the melting?
It's very safe in that sense. The biggest environmental side is that as you're burning, it's the energy used and it's the CO2 created. Mm-hmm. So there's about 1,500 kilograms of CO2 created from every ton of material processed in a smelter. So that's the releasing of the burning sections. And PGMs on a melted basis look almost exactly like gold, just in a silver metallic color. So platinum, palladium, they're all in that metallic silvery type side.
So platinum, you can buy rings.
Yes.
Made of platinum. And they always tell you you can't have platinum resized.
Platinum has a much higher melting point than gold. And so it's not that it doesn't melt. It just means the temperature has to be, and the torch that a jeweler has doesn't go to that temperature.
So now with your company, you're doing commercial. So do businesses, do they bring these materials to you, or do you go out and seek these materials?
So we have a partnership right now with Davis Recycling, which is a large recycler on the Eastern Seaboard. And he has a network that he collects, and he has been collecting gasolines for a long time that he ships to smelters. He has always had requests from his clients, is there a home for my diesel? And so we're the offshoot so that he can collect the diesel catalytic converters and bring them into the supply chain.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so then when we're talking, I will bring this up, the theft, because that seems to be a...
Yes.
Why is that? If it's commercial and he's purchasing from commercial, why is there theft? Are people selling these to companies, or are they putting... I don't understand why there's theft.
So there is a black market, and there's a lot of groups that are trying to affect so that it makes it harder for that black market to survive. When those people steal it from your vehicle, they're trying to sell it to a small scrap guy. And the whole pyramid is small scrap dealers sell to larger ones and larger ones till they're finally processed. And so they're trying to act like people who've taken their pieces off and bring them to the scrap dealers. What's been implemented is things called KYC, know your customer. Yeah. And so up to the levels of refiners and smelters, they have to be able to prove the provenance of the materials that are coming into them. And so each level has to then know your customer. We've actually had to turn down some orders that people have wanted to send to us because they couldn't prove where the materials came from. And so that's a whole section that's being tried to push the black market out of the stream, because none of us want the black market there. It doesn't do us any good. There's enough of the regular market to keep us in business, and we want people to have the useful life that they get from their catalytic converters, and there's no need for any of the black market stuff to come into our business stream. I'll step back though one thing. So we don't do the melting. Okay. Our process, that's the smelters, and that's with the gasoline. What we do is a chemical leach, that we put our materials into a chemical leach, which then the chemistry extracts the metals from the substrate. Once we've got that, we can take another chemical process and it drops the liquid version back into a solid. So we're doing what's called hydrometallurgical process, and they're doing a thermal process in the smelters. The base chemistry has been around for a long time. It's how you make it work And like we like to talk about, when we started down this path, we had two issues to take care of. We had a chemistry issue to make sure we could understand how the chemistry worked and have it be effective. But then we had a process, a physical mechanical issue. Because like I talked about, you're changing states of materials.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a solid type, sometimes it's liquid. So all that movement of material is a whole other section of the technology that needed to be accomplished so that makes this commercially viable. At the end of our process, we have a product that is effectively commodity grade precious metal. So what we like to sort of highlight is that, just like with our name, we're regenerating the product. We're not recycling it. We're regenerating. We're turning it right back into the raw material that it was before it was ever used. And so it can then be used for the exact same purpose as the material that's coming out of the ground from a mine. And it's a big difference than your traditional recycling, in that your traditional recycling, and to give an example of that white piece of paper you've got. Well, that white piece of paper, when you recycle it, doesn't come back as white paper.
Mm-mm.
It comes back as a brown cardboard. And so each step on the majority of recycling is converting it to an inferior product. What we're doing is regenerating it right back to the original raw material that can
Without
be used for
doing the
whatever.
mining.
Yeah. Right now we sell it just straight into the international commodity market.
So it's not any specific. It's not the automobile companies.
No, but that's a part we're working with on. We're working towards truly circular, and we're working with a few different groups on. And give an example. A lot of automotive places is that when you bring your car in for a repair, there's things as core charges, and that the repair guy will take the alternator or whichever and will ship it back to the manufacturer, and they get paid a little bit as a core, and then they try to rebuild them and resell them. With the catalytic converters, we're building a process that have the same sort of system, where they would send us their cores, we would process them and return the metal to the automotive companies to then rebuild, redo catalytic converters.
Right. Which I would like to see happen, because that comes to that question that I have. What is the responsibility of the companies that originally make this product? And for a consumer living in 2025, I want to see companies more accountable for what they're producing and what happens at the end of life, because we're throwing so much away.
Well, and fundamentally in the precious metals, in the PGMs, currently about 30% of the demand is filled by recycling. And that has to increase because there just isn't the mining capability to produce more as demand grows. And there's concerted effort to increase the amount of recycling done in these sectors, because we can't have more come out from the ground that's going to meet the increasing supply requirements. We're part of what we like to refer to as urban mining. And into that sector is that the urban mining is out there looking for ways to regenerate sort of raw materials from items that have been processed. And the automobile is one of the best examples that's currently happening, because for as much as we see is that a large chunk of the current auto is actually recycled. Like most of the steel, all those pieces that are coming in are actually hitting the recycling chain at this time. We do see that there's some potential for some other areas, potentially back in the e-waste, potentially in those types. But our first focus is there's a large need in this catalytic converter and a large growth profile for us just even in this niche sector before we might start moving into other pieces. PGMs right now are trading at about $1,000 an ounce each. So they're highly valuable. And so even small amounts can generate the returns that are needed to fund the operations. We look at it to two sources.
Sure.
One is that we're proud of what we're doing and that it's green and that it's a niche into where we can go. Green initiatives only get to grow if they're also economic. And so we have to show that we can do this economically to increase the footprint of being able to do the good green work at the same time. Our green footprint, we are fairly negligible. I mean, we're in a small area where we get to have to do this. We can do it inside. So all those pieces allow us to be fairly environmental. And we have no emissions when it comes through. So it makes it very nice on that side.
I commend you.
That's one of the things we're also looking at. Is it's one of the reasons that we're in Tennessee. Tennessee is a great distribution hub on the eastern seaboard. It's along the lines of major transportation corridors that it allows effective shipping of these materials, because we can't just go locally. We have to grab from a larger area. But having ourselves located in Tennessee is a great advantage on reducing the shipping that's required to bring all this product to us. Just for an example, Tennessee is where FedEx had their first distribution hub. And that's where it made it for a central hub that allowed them to bring everything in at night and send it back out the next morning and be able to deliver stuff overnight. So that's how central Tennessee is to a distribution hub on the eastern seaboard of the U.S. We're starting up. We're ready to grow. We're moving forward in what our plan is. We've had some hiccups, but we're doing a one-of-a-kind, first-of-a-kind process. And we're very proud of where we've gotten to and how quickly we've gotten to this point. And I'd say that's also our team has been immensely responsible for that, our ability to make those adjustments and move forward with our product.
And so are you mostly scientists there, or are they engineers? What's the makeup?
So we're a combination of all. We've got a lab in Vancouver that does a lot of our innovation work. And we've got people on the ground engineering and some scientists in Tennessee who are more process orientated to get us operating efficiently. We're fairly small. We've got 12 people. We're doing this with 12 people at this point in time.
I think that's great. Yeah, that's awesome. So listeners can actually learn more about you, and they can help support you by going to RegenX.tech, and that spelling is RegenX.tech, TECH. It's a great website. The research and the information, this can grow. It'll take a few years, but I'm so thrilled to hear about how it is regenerated and that it can be regenerated. And it's exciting.
We're excited to be in this space too. We see a great future and a great potential, and we're glad to be part of it.
I like to end with your last inspiring words for the listeners. So, any topic, your last inspiring words.
Sure. So, I'll put this in a piece, is that I've come in a long history of mining background, and the one piece that I haven't liked about how we've been moving forward is that a little bit of demonization of different groups who are responsible in different areas, and how we've gone to attack different pieces. And if we're truly to move forward, we have to stop attacking each other and start collaborating and figuring out how to move forward. Because people who are in certain industries, they'll be defensive, they'll be scared of what transitions mean. And if they're attacked, they just sort of don't look to cooperate. And what we've got to do is not look at how we demonize sectors, but at how we help transition to move to different ideas. And so that's where I can hope that we can have a lot more collaborative dialogues than attacking dialogues.
awesome, inspiring words, Don Weatherbee. So hope to the future with that round table where we can sit down and collaborate and problem solve. Don Weatherbee, thank you so very much for being on the show here at Your Positive Imprint. I appreciate you so much, and good luck, and let's get this spreading. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Learn more about Don Weatherbee by going to RegenX.tech, and that's RegenX.tech. This is a free podcast, and right now I'm starting a new campaign to help fund the production of this podcast. If you'd like to support this production, go to buymeacoffee.com/yourpositiveimprint, and any support you offer will be greatly valued. Thank you so much for your support and for listening to Your Positive Imprint. Check out my website, yourpositiveimprint.com, where you can learn more about the podcast and sign up for email updates. Thank you again so much for listening and for your support of this podcast. Your Positive Imprint. What's your PI?